video. Hopefully by now you've cut the 3 panels, gathered the waistband and finished the hem. And in today's class we're going to do raw edges, we're going to finish the seam, and we're going to do the waistband. So let's get started. So just sitting down now to overlock panels 1 and 3. If you don't have an overlocker, you can use a zigzag stitch on your home sewing machine. And if you're using tulle for the panel 2, you won't need to overlock your seam or anything because it's not going to fray. If you're using silk organza, you want to hem it just like you hem panel 1 and 3 in the first week. So we're just going to work on these seams. So next we're going to work on the waistband. First we have to gather 2 inches from the top seam. We're going to be gathering in the same method as we did for the first one. And what we want to do to start with is mark our fabric 2 inches so that you have a guide when you're sewing. So I'm just going to mark it here. And then we'll start sewing using the same method that I taught in the beginning, the gathering stitch at the top. So we start sewing. And just be sure to follow as straight a line as possible as you sew. And again, just remember at the end to leave enough strings so that you can gather. So after we do the first line, we'll do one more and then we'll gather the waist seam. Just the same, we're going to clip the end, leave some strings. What you've done again is stitch 2 lines about 2 millimeters apart, being careful not to stitch over top of the line, and we're then going to gather the same method, taking the bottom and just pull. And what you want to do is basically gather the same measurement as the top waist. So just pull your gathers in until you get the same method. And then at the end, just secure your threads by tying in a knot. So the next step we're going to do is pin all 3 panels together at the side seams to finish the seams. So we want to make sure that we face the right sides of the fabric together and pin along the edge. So once you finish that, get your other 2 panels and do the same thing, and then you're ready to sew. So next we're going to sew each seam ½ an inch, and just a note for the tulle to do a really tight stitch, otherwise you're going to find that the seam unravels. So next we're going to press all the seams open for each panel using a steam setting on your iron. What I usually do as I press is press both sides. So press the wrong side of the fabric first and then press the right side just to make sure that the seam is totally open. So we've now pinned panel 1 on top of panel 2 and then panel 1 and 2 together on panel 3. And we're going to stitch on the seam line. So what I've done is I've basically pinned it along the seam line that we've gathered, and we're going to stitch all 3 panels together. And that's 3 panels stitched together. So I've just pressed over the overlock edge of the top seam, and I'm going to be pinning the waistband seam over onto the waist of the top panel. So now that we're finished, we're going to take this machine and stitch. So I'm just going to start stitching the waistline. I just want to make sure that I leave a wee gap to put the elastic in. So as I start stitching, when I get to that point, stop, back stitch at both points, and then that leaves somewhere to insert your elastic. Now that we have stitched down the waistband, turn it over and stitch it. We're going to insert the elastic. So I have a piece of elastic here. I've put a safety pin on the bottom, and I'm going to use this to feed it through the little opening that I've left in the waistband. Just take it, and using my fingers, you can feel the safety pin. It takes a little while, but slowly feed it through the waistband. So when we get to the end, we need to feed the safety pin through. And what we're then going to do is stitch the elastic at the seam, put it in, and then stitch the rest of the waistband closed, either using a hand stitch or your machine. And that's the waistband.